brought to you by Viking Rugby Wear, offering you a complete and affordable range of rugby and leisure wear.
To Wardie for the fourth round of the Scottish Hydroelectric Cup. Broughton taking on Premier 1 GHA. And they showed that they were quite determined to put their concerns about relegation from Premier 1 behind them and play a more expansive game against a side who are a long way below them in the leagues. And that became evident in the first minute when they gave the ball plenty of air and had the Broughton defence all over the place. The ball moving out to the left. And, well, the man at the end of it, taking Peter Jezerovic's pass, was Deziolo, scoring the opening try without Broughton having put a hand on the ball. Jim Noonan had no problem with the conversion. And after just a minute, 7-0 to GHA, but Broughton weren't just there to make up the numbers on their own pitch. No way. And with 8 minutes gone, some very powerful work by the forwards. And GHA not quite sure where it hit them with the burly Broughton brutes battling in there. Cal Mohammed was the man who picked up the ball, and Adam McFarlane was the man who finished off under the posts, and no problem for Dan Arundale to convert that one. And it was honours even after 8 minutes. Well, they got the first try in their cup tie against Boroughmuir last season to take the lead. They pulled level with GHA, and, well, it's never easy in the early stages for any team coming to Wardie. But again, GHA putting pace in the ball, working it down the left touch line and stretching the Broughton defence. Calls for it to go out to the wing. That's where it ended up, and no problem for GHA skipper Rory Watson to go in at the corner after 13 minutes. Noonan again popped over the conversion, 14-7. 5 minutes later, Broughton had got themselves back into a dangerous looking field position. The ball coming back on the Broughton side, out to Arundale. Again, the forwards, terrific support to the ball carrier. The ball swung out wide, and Broughton, well, just when it looked as though they might stretch the GHA defence, a wee fumble, giving the visitors the turnover. And, well, they weren't going to waste that sort of possession. The ball worked out again to Rory Watson, the winger, scampering away there, down the wing. And in, then out. Lovely wee exchange of passes. And the man on the end of that one was Dan Sutherland, supporting exactly the way you'd expect a good flanker to do. Kick to touch by Arundale, not quite finding it. And GHA looking as though they were going to do some serious damage again. But then an outrageous steal in midfield, and it was that man again, Cal Mohammed, and a big man thundering up the park, taking tacklers with him, supported by Paul Tyson. Worked out there by Murray Smith. Now watch this for a bit of skill. Look at the take, the pass, the inside ball, and the man to cap it all, Nick Keenan. Well, I tell you what, that could qualify for one of the tries of the season. There was so much skill, so much support, so much vision in that try, that if Broughton don't take anything else from this game, they can watch that one again and say, my goodness, that made it worthwhile. Dan Arundale's kick hit the post, and at 19 points to 12, well, Broughton still with a chance, but deep into injury time in the first half. GHA piling on the pressure now, using the forwards, pulling the Broughton pack in, driving over the line, getting the try, and hooker Desiolo ending the half the way he started it with a try. James Noonan's kick was short and GHA went in. 24 points to 12 at half time.
Brought to you by Viking Rugby Wear, offering you a complete and affordable range of rugby and leisure wear.
The second half was always likely to show up the gap between the two clubs, and so it proved as Chris Mackay went through a pretty slack Broughton defence for a try 5 minutes into the second half. 10 minutes later, GHA very dominant now, giving the ball plenty of air, and John O'Wright's intrusion into the line, taking out a couple of defenders and setting up Rory Watson for a nifty wee chip and chase try that left the Broughton defence in his wake. Into the final quarter, and Broughton still sticking to the task, not giving up, but it is always going to be a safe fact in the last 20 minutes. And Peter Jurasevich digging away for the ball, out to Noonan, Noonan to the big man himself, and well, you really wouldn't want to get into Andy Williams' way, would you? Not if you could help it. Underneath the posts, give the ball to Noonan, and casual as you like. Can I drop this one, ref? Certainly you can, Jim, said Robin Beach. Over it goes, but it took GHA another quarter of an hour to get more points on the board, and it's an awful lot of credit to the Broughton boys. Just look at the way they're piling in after that ball. Dan Arundale slinging that one out, dropping a wee bit short of Craig Hawthorne, where Hawthorne's kick not quite finding touch, taken there by Rory Watson, and this was another chance in the dying minutes for GHA to cut loose. Jusarevic to Noonan, Noonan out again, and the ball finally reaching John O'Wright for a very, very simple and very, very smart try. Broughton could have hoped that that was the end to it, but deep into injury time, there was one more to come. Jusarevic finding Noonan, Noonan changing direction, and at the end it was a simple walk-in for Ross McClymont. What wasn't quite so simple was Noonan's drop goal, but he banged it over nevertheless for the last play of the game.
Yeah, I think they probably then did get a shock when Sandy Urquhart went straight through the middle of a ruck, scored without any problems whatsoever, and there were tackles going in, any sort of maul was being driven, the scrums were solid, and yeah, when we turned around at the half-time interval, I'm sure they were probably getting an absolute rollicking from their coach to kind of cut out the errors, move the ball wide.
Yeah, it's in the early rounds of the Cup, it's always really difficult coming down to places like this, you know. In fairness to them, it was a really good pitch, and we can't really argue about that, but it's always difficult, and they put up a really good fight, so we're just happy to go away. We're into the next round, and we'll see what happens.
I hope they've come down and had a really good time as well, and they'll possibly hang about in the clubhouse afterwards and join in as well.
I'm sure GHA would join in. I'm sure they'd enjoy some terrific Wardie hospitality. They played their part, they go into the Shield, GHA go on in the Cup. This is Ron Evans for Scottish Rugby Television at Broughton.
Brought to you by Viking Rugby Wear, offering you a complete and affordable range of rugby and leisure wear.